Good afternoon, upper school students at Cape Fear Academy. It's Friday, March 27th, and welcome to Mr. F's Garage. Here we are. Hey, look, we do. We sure love you guys. We love you seniors. We know this is a tough time right now for you guys with everything being completely not how you expected your senior year to go. Just know that we're thinking about you every day, trying to figure out good ways to get engagement going on again. And just know that we really do. We miss you and we love you tons. So without further ado, let's get started. So today what we're going to do in Mr. F's Garage is we're going to talk a little bit more about car stuff and mainly fluid checks. We did oil, how to check your oil. But there's some other fluids that are very, very important in your car. You got your radiator fluid, which is very important, which if you recall, you never check when it's hot. Never check your radiator fluid when it's hot. But you also have your brake fluid and in some cars, your transmission fluid. Those are two very important other fluids that you can check in your car. And we're going to talk just real briefly about a couple of the things on your car that typically go out. They're kind of the first things that die on your car that you can for the most part, on most cars, you can do it yourself and you can replace those parts pretty easily. So first, let's check the fluid stuff. Now, we had to take our Honda Odyssey in to get serviced. It's at its checkup time where it really needs to get a big overhaul and check in. And so we don't have our Honda Odyssey. And it's kind of unfair to keep looking at my beautiful big 1977 Ford truck out there because the engine is so unlike most of the engines you'll face. So today, what we have is my brother and sister-in-law who so kindly loaned us their vehicle for the day so that we could have a car. And I learned some new things on this one. I don't own a car like this. So I popped the hood already. And this one, interestingly enough, the latch doesn't push up or down. It's a side-to-side latch. And it took me a while to find it. There it is. And then I popped it up. Now, here's the funny part about this car. I looked forever. Like, I'm looking down here. Where in the name of Bob's Green Eggs and Ham is the little strut to hold up the hood? I don't know. I can't find it, but lo and behold, it's up here. It's up here on the top. Now, how could Mr. Fee have figured that out sooner? I bet you already answered that question for me. Owner's manual. Look at the owner's manual. All right, so if you remember when looking at the beautiful 1977 Ford truck, there's a lot of room beside the engine. There isn't any room beside the engine here, right? And what they've done is they've taken engine blocks now. This is pretty cool, I think. They've taken engine blocks and they used to sit front to back. So your fan shroud and your radiator are right up here in the front. You went straight back and you connected to your transmission. What it did, though, is it made for a much longer hood. And so if you look at all these old cars, the front of the car, the hoods are really long. Now, what they've done now is they've taken the engine block and they've turned it sideways, right? And so really the front of the engine's up here and the back of the engine's over here, which, you know, for us do-it-yourself dudes that like to get our hands dirty and work on cars, makes it a mite difficult to get your hands in there. So let's look at a couple of things. Right here, let's see, can you see? Yep, let's see, right here, that's the brake fluid. And that's what you need to keep an eye on. There's a little line that should be on the side of it. It's right here, it's a fill line. And your brake fluid should always be up to that fill line. It's a quick, easy thing to check. You just unscrew it, look in there. This one's pretty low, needs to be changed, needs to be added. Hey, look, there's our battery. Remember how to jump start the battery? Yeah, that's a good one. All right, now over here, like right down here, this is the radiator and it's hot. So we're not going to open that. But if I wanted to put some more, if I wanted to check my radiator fluid, I'd unscrew that and just look and see where it is. You want the radiator fluid, you want to be able to see it. Kind of a bright green color, chartreuse almost. This over here is the overflow for the radiator fluid. So if it gets really, really hot, it overflows into that. Okay. And this right here, that's your windshield wiper fluid. All right. Whenever you run out of windshield wiper fluid, it's pretty easy. Just pour it right in there, fill it up to the top. Good to go. All right, so basically that's all you got to do to check your fluids. And I would check them, you know, not as much as you check your oil. There's no need for that. I'd probably do it once a month, and it literally will take you about 5 minutes to do. Okay. Now, transmission fluid. Some vehicles will have a transmission fluid that looks similar to your brake fluid canister, and it might be, depends on where it is. But a lot of vehicles nowadays have what's called continuously variable transmission, and they're actually, the transmission fluid's actually kind of like sealed in the transmission case. That's no, you have to take it to the dealer most of the time to get that fixed, or buy yourself a Haynes manual and figure out an out around it. On my Ford pickup truck, since it's a 3-speed, 3 on the tree. That one, to check the transmission fluid in that one, you actually crawl under the car, and there's a big, huge 3/8" socket drive that you have to crack open and look inside, and you can kind of peek in. And if you can see fluid and stick your finger in there and feel it, then it's good. It's old school. All right, so that's your fluid check. I would do it once a month. Just make sure. You don't want to run out of brake fluid, because then your brakes fail. That's bad. That's no good. You don't want to run out of transmission fluid, because that's the transmission fluid is how your car shifts gears and all of that good stuff. Sometimes you'll also have a power steering. Sometimes it's together, power steering and transmission together. Just read your owner's manual and you'll find out. All right. So what are the things that typically break down on a car first? Well, typically it's your battery will go out first. Those typically, they're 5 or 6 years, sometimes longer. After your battery, kind of one of the most common things to go out is your alternator. And what your alternator does in your car is it keeps your battery charged. Really, your battery is a starting battery. It starts it has to put a lot of amperage out to your starter motor and your pinion to get it going, to get your car started. But once, excuse me, once your car is actually started, then your alternators run off a pulley, and your alternator sends a charge, and it continuously, it charges the battery, but it also runs all the electrical for your car, your radio, your lights, headlights, all that good stuff. And so your alternator sometimes will go out. Now, here's how you'll know when your alternator is going out. Basically, you could be driving down the road and everything starts getting dim. Usually your stereo is the first thing to go. It kind of goes, and you lose your stereo. And then your lights go really dim. Because you don't have any power. So basically, if your alternator's gone, it's sometimes people are like, oh, it's my battery. Well, you can check that. You can see if your battery has power. You can take it to AutoZone. They'll check your battery for free. And if your battery's good, it'll be your alternator. And your alternator is pretty easy to see. They all look the same. It's this guy right here. You can see he's got like coils in them, and there's some copper coils in there, and they've got, you can see through the thing, and then it's always connected to a good pulley right there. And that pulley is what spins and what creates the electricity to drive your car. That's a pretty easy fix on most cars. Now, this one, as you'll see, there's no place to stick my hand in there. But I bet if I move this stuff out of the way, easily pop these bolts off. There's probably a tensioner and pull the pulley and release tension on the pulley and probably take it right off. Yep. So that's the first thing. The second thing that goes out sometimes, this kind of the most second common thing, is your water pump. And now what your water pump does, it's on another pulley system in the front. And what it does is it circulates the radiator fluid through your engine block. So you have ports in your engine where the coolant's going around and it's cooling the engine block so it doesn't overheat. Then it's recycled back up into the radiator. It has all that air going through it, which cools the radiator fluid down. And then it goes back through. So your water pump just recycles and pushes that fluid all the way through and makes sure your engine block doesn't overheat. Now, here's how you'll know if your water pump's leaking, is going bad. A, your car overheats and you have plenty of radiator fluid in it, or you see radiator fluid dripping out from the front of your engine block, not your radiator. Then you kind of say, oh no, could be a blown head gasket. That's not terrible. Or it could be your water pump. which again, on these cars that are turned sideways, whew, that may be one of those things you want to take to your local handyman. You mean your local auto mechanic to fix, but you never know. Check it out. Go in the Haynes manual. All right, now just to do a contrast, because I have to, because I'm biased. I like my Ford truck. Again. Oh, no. There we go. All right, so hear all that rust fall. So here's a little different story here. Engine straight forward, front of the engine, back of the engine back there. Pretty easy to see. Alternator. See this guy? It looks very similar to the other one. You can tell it's got these kind of fins on it right here. That's the alternator. This is really easy to change. I don't know if you can see. All I got to do is take this bolt off right here and this bolt off down here, and then unscrew the electrical the power to it that runs back to the battery. Dunzo. Not bad. Now, where's the water pump? Water pump's right here. Again, all I have to do is pop the fan off and get behind there, and there's the water pump. Now, one thing about the water pump, how does it know when to really start chucking water through your engine block? There's a thermostat that controls that. And sometimes those go out too. And that's pretty cool. The thermostat, all you got to do is follow your main radiator hose to the engine block, and right there, that's where your thermostat's going to be. And that's a pretty cool little thing if you ever want to check it. You can pull your thermostat out, and if you want to check if it's bad, make sure it's at room temperature. Pour a little, get a bowl, a glass bowl or a plastic bowl that can take really, really hot water. Pour some hot water in there and drop that thermostat in there. And if it's a good thermostat, you'll see it'll go pop and it'll open. And that's when it does inside your radiator. When it gets to a certain temperature, boom, it opens, and then the coolant floods through and cools down your engine. So just some interesting car stuff for you today. I hope you all have a great weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all as soon as you can. And seniors, we love you. We certainly do. All righty. Miss you, every one of y'all. Have a great weekend. Shoot me emails. Tell me if you want to see something different, and I'll be sure to listen to you. Thanks. Bye.